Hello once again everyone, and welcome back to Going Posta. So, joining me once again today is Jake, my resident Italian, and we're going to be now moving on to Longa. Now, Longa is a very fun guard in that it's actually one of my preferred guards to start a fight in, and it's also one that, frankly, I kind of wish more people took, as it does have some nice, not necessarily distinct advantages per se, but it's very good if you're starting to think about what your guards can do for you in the long run in regards to what you're showing the opponent and the game, the mental game that is, that you want to start playing over the course of the fight. But to show off to begin with, Longa is going to be held with your left foot forward, your right foot back, and the sword is just kind of down by your side. Now it can be a little bit more out to the side if you want, or it can be more aligned with your leg and sort of sticking behind you. I tend to hold it a bit more like the latter, personally, but it doesn't really matter. The important thing here is to make sure that it doesn't turn into Posta di Ferro, as it's very easy to get that hand position mixed up if you're not actively thinking about it. So, make sure the chest is nice and open, you don't want to be turning profile or anything along those lines, and the sword is just back behind you. This is a very good way to practice launching your sottani, as it's a very natural position to then step forward with as you cut from below or from above, as we'll see later. But, from Longa, we're given a couple different things that we can do. First thing that we can do is it's very good at moving from one position to the other. So it's a good guard to wait in for that reason. Now what does that mean? Well, the way I like to use it, and in my opinion what Fiore means here, is that when we first start the fight, we're out at good distance. What I approach with and what I take is going to be giving Jake information. So for example, one of the types of people that you'll fight, the first thing they'll do is they'll stick the sword out and advance behind it, right? That tells you a lot. That tells you that they want to either think with your point or they want you to attack at that point so that they can set up their next action. They're kind of putting out a feeling. Other people will instead focus on giving you something scary, like going up high or things along those lines to get you thinking about, okay, I'm going to have to deal with whatever they throw at me. Others still tend to prefer to load themselves kind of on the middle line. So for example, advancing something like maybe flu, or alternatively posta breve. Another example would be lower posta donna or vampag, something along these lines that makes it look like I'm really sprung and ready to do an action here in the middle. These are all sorts of behaviors that you'll see. The other type of person is person who advances with like no guard whatsoever. These are the type of people that as soon as they fight, they just walk up into distance, then they take their position, right? These are all fine, and there's nothing wrong with it, but depending upon which one you choose, you will inform the opponent about a certain archetype that you're mimicking, and they will start building their plan around that. This is why I like Longa, is because it is still a well-sprung guard, but I'm giving a lot of opening, and I'm not giving anything away. From here, I can move into any of my other positions with great ease, right? So if I want to, from here I can just bring it up to the shoulder. From here I can easily fold back. From here I can fold back in, bring the tip up. I can also, if I wish to, bring the tip to center. Or, with a very small pass, I can start playing all of my guards on my other side without difficulty. And this is kind of my preferred way to do it, is the very first thing I'll do when I start a fight is I'll go ahead and move up in Longa with the express intent upon seeing what they want to do. He can't see my sword, he isn't sure what I might try to do with it, so the first time he does see that steel is when I'm doing an action. So that's, I believe, what Fiore is meaning here, and that's why I like it. Another good reason is that if I'm at a distance and there's no fighting to be going on, I don't need to be holding anything that causes any sort of energy loss. Longa costs me nothing to hold. Not at all. I mean, you could also say the same of Posta Longa or, Posta di Ferro or Mezzo Posta di Ferro. They don't cost you anything either. Longa I just find is even more relaxed out of the three, but that's personal preference. So, now let's talk about what else it can do. It can move forward to cover and strike. So what we mean by here is that if Jake comes up in Fendenti, it's not hard for me to throw that blade out with the same amount of force that I would if I was going from Posta donna or Posta di Ferro. It's just not that hard. Now you can even do a little trick here that one of our guys, Randy, who's sitting in the audience, is a very big fan of doing. So the way I like to do it is I keep my knuckles in orientation and I rotate more around my arms. The way Randy likes to do it is he opens his hand and the sword will actually turn over as it goes. So he ends up fighting with the other edge. Both are completely fine. They get the same job across, but if that seems intriguing to you, you may want to check it out. But either way, in comes the attack. I've made my cover, my left leg is still back. I'm actually set up really, really good here, so I can do kind of any of the actions I want. Another thing I find is that with that kind of width as it goes around, it gets just a little bit more than Posta does. However, it does have to travel a bit further, so bear that in mind. So that's it coming forward to cover. It can also, of course, from here, you're set up to do all your finester stuff. But another option would be this can come forward to cover and strike in a different way. So this is going to be a new play, the Colpi de Villano, right? So what this is it translates literally to peasant strike. The idea being that Jake is a peasant, hello Jake, he is going to come forward with an almighty strike toward my head that I don't want to try and intercept. Sure, can I cover this? Yes. But I'm going to end up covering it in frontale or something along those lines, and I don't want to play with big farmer Jake there. I don't want to do that, right? So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to advance my left foot slightly off the line, and then bring my right foot up. Now, Firoi never says what guard to do this from. He just says from a left foot forward, narrow stance. I find this matches that description quite well. I open my head, my left foot is forward, and I'm pretty open. So, as he goes to do that cut, 1, 2, boom. I just step out from underneath, my sword raising up to cover. As soon as he hits it, it gives me all the necessary momentum to hit him. We'll do it again. And that has a lot of power. You'll notice that I am hitting right foot forward as opposed to most times you'll be used to hitting left foot forward. This can also be done against the staff or things along those lines, in which case I'm trying to cover that distance. And frankly, he's giving me all the power I need. I'm actually pulling the shot quite significantly. So you really don't need to bring that left foot up unless you have to. But either way, that's another example of this coming out to cover and strike. Now, let's talk about it striking on its own. So of course, if I want to cut either a Fendenti or a Sultani at Jake, all I need to do is advance with my right foot, and I can cut either with ease. Nothing really too complicated there. So now let's talk about its more unique aspect, and another thing I really like to use it for. We'll switch places for this one. So now what's going to happen, it's also a great way of entering into the close range game. So if you remember, we talked about how Posta Sinistra was very good for entering into the close range game because it causes them to have to defend on an unorthodox side and can also knock their sword out of the way. Well, when it comes to Longa, it's kind of got the same properties but reversed. Now you can absolutely enter into the close range game from Posta. However, most people are going to be a little bit more prepared to deal with that. They get more time to see it, they get more time to react to it. When you enter from Longa, on the other hand, because it's got that sort of snappiness, yeah, and I can really get him to react to that blade, and I can also put a little bit more offline step because I'm not having to use the Volta Stable, I can get a lot more direct energy at him. So I'm going to do it slow first, but this is kind of what it looks like. And that time I actually blew through, right? I can just kind of step up directly, which is going to force him to raise that cover, and as soon as he does, there's my entry. My left leg is still back, he is defending against my sword, can't escape anywhere, it's open season for anything I want to do, right? Now here's it a little bit more quickly. Same idea, I come up, I take Longa, there it is, right? It's really not that hard, and as far as getting yourself a good entry into the close range, it's very natural and easy to do. But otherwise, that's going to be the extent of Longa. Thank you very much, Jake. Not a terribly complicated guard, but very good one to use. So if you're looking for something kind of new to add to your playbook, especially when your arms start getting tired, Longa might be the one for you. But otherwise, next week we'll be moving on and covering a new Posta. I believe we'll be doing Bicorno. So, thank you very much for watching, and we'll go over some other techniques another time.